Hey there, welcome to another episode of the Cutting Room Floor. We've been going through the book of Ruth here over the last couple of weeks at Sunny Slope. And this past week, we looked at a story in Ruth chapter 3. Ruth chapter 3, in case you don't remember, is this part of the story where Naomi actually instructs her daughter-in-law Ruth to go to the threshing room floor in the middle of the night. And then there's this really strange ritual that Naomi instructs Ruth to practice. Essentially, Naomi says, wait until he's really passed out, which is a nice way of saying wait until he's probably had too much to drink and he's kind of out of it. And then go and lie by his feet and take the lie by his feet and wait till he wakes up and he'll know what to do. There's been a lot of discussion about exactly what is really going on there. I mean, on the one hand, that's a really bizarre scene. And the truth of the matter is that there's some differing opinions on what Naomi is really suggesting and on what Ruth actually is doing. And so I thought I would just explore that a little bit more and dig into that and kind of get at that question of what really is going on here. Is Ruth doing something? Is this sort of a seductive thing? Is it just sort of innocent lying down where she's going to be found, or what? What's really happening here? My general sense is that Ruth is, well, I said it in the sermon. My general sense is that Ruth is probably doing not. She's probably not intending to be overly seductive, but she is making her intentions clear. Now, that said, there's a lot of ambiguity in the text. And so let me explore with you sort of an option B that I think might be at play here. And in order to understand option B, you have to know a little bit about who the Moabites are. So the Moabites, you go back into Genesis chapter 19, and you get this really sort of, it's hard to know what word to use. It's a story that's pretty graphic and crude. And it has to do with Lot and his two daughters. And essentially what they both do is they take turns going in and getting their father drunk and sleeping with him. And then they both become pregnant by him. And the reason that's important is for two things. Number one, the first son, the son born to the older daughter, is actually named Moab. And Moab then becomes the father of the Moabite people. The second reason that that's important is because that narrative of sort of this incestuous relationship begins to kind of give shape to the reputation that the Moabite people had. The Israelites viewed them as a people who were born out of incest and out of this sexually inappropriate relationship. And so they gained this reputation for being sort of sexually provocative or sexually seductive or sexually inappropriate. So that's part one in the background of this story. Now, the second thing is that in the Bible, because it says that Ruth goes in and she lays down by Boaz's feet. Now, in the Bible, feet is sometimes used as a euphemism for a person's genitals. And it's hard to know here if that's really what's in mind. I tend to think probably not, but there is a possibility that what Naomi is suggesting Ruth do is lie down as close and as intimately as exactly what I just suggested, that she's to lie down next to him in a very seductive way. And so one of the theories here is that what Naomi is actually suggesting that her daughter-in-law do, in a sense, Naomi is saying, Ruth, you're a Moabite, and everybody looks at you as though you are a seductive person, and you have this reputation for being a part of a people who are very seductive and very provocative and sexually explicit, and so you might as well live into that reputation. You might as well sort of just own that part of your identity and go in and lay down next to Boaz and be sexually provocative. Now, number one, and Naomi would have reasoned that in doing so, you're actually going to accomplish God's will. Like you're actually going to secure a future for yourself. He's a family member. He has a legal right and a legal responsibility to be your redeemer. So Naomi would have possibly been reasoning that everything that she's telling Ruth to do was a means of still accomplishing God's will and God's desire. But the only thing is that Naomi, if that's true, if that description is accurate, then Naomi would have been telling Ruth essentially to go to seek after the right goal in the wrong way. Right? So Naomi would be saying, look, Boaz has a legal obligation to marry you. You might as well just, come on to him in this very provocative and very forward way. And in other words, Naomi would be acting as a pragmatist here. It's like the ends justify the means. Now, as Christians, of course, I think if that's the case, I think we have to reject that. I think we have to say that seeking after God's will should not ever require us to step outside of God's will. Seeking God's will should not ever lead us to be acting in a way that would violate God's will. We should be seeking after God's will and always doing it in a way that's consistent with his revealed will. But nevertheless, if that's what Naomi's suggesting, I would say that even if that's what Naomi suggests, there's really no evidence to suggest that Ruth behaves in a way that would have been inappropriate. She lies down, I would say, by his feet, and when Boaz wakes up, she actually is very direct and asks for him to spread the corner of the cloak over me, which, if you remember from the book of Ezekiel, I mentioned that in the message, is really a way of saying, take me under your protection. And it's really a marriage proposal. So there's no evidence that there was any kind of sexual impropriety going on there. But it is possible that that's what Naomi was suggesting her daughter-in-law do. So now you know a little more background, a little more information. It's one of these cases where there's multiple theories as to what really happened, and now you got just a little more information and a different way of looking at it. So we'll see you next time. We'll probably do at least one more cutting room floor before the end of the year here. But in the meantime, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.